Well, normally, I wouldn't have somebody on who is anti-Semitic, who just wants all Jews and Israelis to die. Nor would I have somebody on who is for drunk driving and just wants drunk drivers just to kill a bunch of people. But certainly I would never have a guest on who is both of those things. But I'm going to make the exception with Thomas Massie, who is getting unbelievable heat for what I think is doing the right thing. Hello, Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing well, Glenn, and thanks for accurately portraying all my positions.
Yes. Well, I'm just taking it from the press. Let's start with your rampant anti-Semitism.
Well, I voted not, and I know we disagree on this, but I voted not to send $14.3 billion to Israel, and I voted not to try to sanction Iran as a result of everything that's gone on. And most recently, I guess the mortal sin here is I voted not to censure Rashida Tlaib, citing my concerns about the First Amendment and a member of Congress's ability to say what they want, regardless of how hateful and detestable I might think it would be.
Okay, now I know your stance on sending other countries money. You're being consistent with all countries, not just Israel. Help me out with the Iran thing.
Yeah, so one of the resolutions we passed that was to support Israel, and by the way, I agreed with much of the resolution. I do support Israel. I support their right to defend themselves, and I condemn the atrocities and the attacks that Hamas conducted.
Yes.
But the first thing that we did in supporting Israel was this resolution, which if it just said we support Israel would have been great, but I think it tends to expand the conflict when we should be trying to keep the conflict geographically managed. And I was worried that it would give President Biden the authority, the imprimatur of Congress, to attack Iran. And so I voted against it for that reason.
All right, now let's go to your love of drunk drivers.
That's a favorite pastime of mine as well.
Yeah.
So there is, buried in this 1,039-page law that passed when the Democrats were in the majority, a provision that, and I'm going to read this directly because the Democrats say it's not in there, so I had to read them the law to them. They obviously didn't read it before they passed it a couple years ago. But there's a provision for a kill switch in all new vehicles by 2026. And I'm going to read that very quickly. It says it will passively monitor the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether that driver may be impaired and prevent or limit motor vehicle operation if an impairment is detected. In other words, they have mandated that there be technology in every new vehicle sold after 2026 that evaluates your driving performance, gives you a scorecard while you're driving, and if you fail, it will disable the vehicle and put you on the side of the road. There's so many problems with this. Even if you could imagine it would technically work, but it's not going to technically work. There'll be 1,000 more false positives than there are actual catching of drunk drivers with this technology. But let's say you're a mom and you've got kids in the car and you've pulled over twice onto the shoulder to let emergency vehicles go by, and then you swerved once for a deer, and now you make your final, correction, and boom, the car says, okay, we're the judge and the jury. We've adjudicated your driving. We believe you're impaired. You have 100 yards to get to the side of the road. How do you appeal your conviction on the side of the road when it's your car who's convicted you?
Well, this doesn't seem like you're for drunk drivers. I was very excited to hear that take from you. But I will tell you that I was at OnStar years ago, and this is before Barack Obama. I was doing commercials for General Motors, and I took a tour of their OnStar facility, and it was in the morning. And you could see on their just gigantic electronic board all of the cars that had OnStar and were activating it or were having trouble or where they were. And I talked to the head of OnStar, and he said, yeah, we can pretty much disable your car. And I said, have you ever done that? And he said, well, with really bad Amber Alerts, if we really know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that doesn't sound like a good thing. I mean, I celebrate it, for the catching of the bad guy, but what are your rules? He said, well, we would never. Well, really? I don't like the fact that someone can disable my car for any reason. I don't want the government or the car company or anybody else to disable my car. I don't like the fact that they can track my car, but that's the way it is. I don't want any more of this control of my life in my car.
Amen, brother. And what this purports to do, this law, would be to allow an artificial intelligence to decide whether you have the right to travel or not. And that's why I offered an amendment yesterday to defund this. In one of the 12 bills that we're voting on, I offered an amendment to defund this rule, this law. And, I've been here 11 years. I lower my expectations for my colleagues every year, and it's still not low enough because my amendment did not pass. There were 19 Republicans who voted to keep the kill switch mandate in law.
What part of everyday life and the out of control, growing authoritarian state do they not see? What part of this do they not understand that, this looks like it could be abused, and the reason why I care about this one is because everything else this government has given control over or been given control over, they have abused.
These 19 Republicans are to the authoritarian left of AOC, because even AOC voted for my amendment because she was concerned about civil liberties on this. So I don't know how you can be a Republican and be for limited government, be against government mandates, be for allowing people to control their own lives, be for private property that you own, not some corporation, not some government, and be for the Bill of Rights, the Ninth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, and still want to have this kill switch mandate in these cars. Now, their argument is, we want to catch the drunk drivers. The problem is this technology, the way they've prescribed it, will have far more false positives, and it will crush your liberties if this goes into place. My only hope here, Glenn, is that this technology they want is so ridiculous that they will put off the mandate once they realize they can't do it. That's my hope.
I will tell you, I took a road trip with my son from Chicago to Dallas last weekend. And there was a point on the road trip where I was looking for something. I was driving. I shouldn't have been doing this, but I was driving and I was trying to get something in behind my seat. And I swerve a couple of times. There's no other cars on the road, but I take my eyes off the road and I'm grabbing and I swerve. And then I'm like, okay, I got to pay more attention. And I do it again and I swerve again. The car said to me, "Is it time for you to take a rest?"
My truck says the same thing. It puts up a coffee icon. And then if you swerve a third time, or even if you just change lanes without using your blinker in my truck, if you do that enough times, it audibly puts a warning up and a bright red signal that says, pull over, get some rest. The problem is what they will do in 2026 is connect that to your ignition and disable your vehicle. Now, let's say who's going to come to the side of the road? Does the car lock itself and keep you there until the police can come and evaluate your reasons? This is very problematic. But the technology you're describing, Glenn, I believe has a camera that is using some image processing to look at the lines in the road. Here's
Yes.
questions that I have. Who has access to that camera when, and do they have to get a warrant to get that? Does your insurance company start getting this streamed, your driving score straight to the insurance company?
Oh,
Do
yes,
they
it
have,
does. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. The other is the technology that is being put in cars now that scans your eyes. It is supposedly being able to tell if you're too sleepy to drive by looking at your eyes.
Correct. Another camera that will be in your car, who has access to that camera and under what authority, and do they need a warrant? These are questions that haven't been answered, but another congressman who serves on the Transportation Committee, his name's Scott Perry, he happens to also be chairman of the Freedom Caucus. He and I sent a letter to Secretary Buttigieg. They're trying to school me here on how to pronounce that. That ask them these questions, because we don't know how they plan to implement this technology, but we can't imagine a good way to implement this technology.
No, you don't give this to a government that is asking for a renewal of Section 702, and they violated everything in that. That is your sacred honor to uphold those things. If that government can't not spy on its own people, we catch them silencing people and working with private organizations and private companies to silence people, you're going to give them more power with your car? No, I don't think so.
And what is impaired when you have COVID? Are you impaired? Will they disable you from traveling? Can you still get to a hospital? Because they put ankle bracelets on people in Kentucky, our governor did, when they refused to sign a certificate saying they wouldn't leave their house.
Just disable the disable the cars. You're not leaving.
Right.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I'm sorry for the heat you're getting, but it comes with a job, unfortunately. But geez, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Good luck.
Yeah.
You bet. Representative Thomas Massie from the great state of Kentucky.